Hi there, and welcome to The InEVitable. This is MotorTrend's new podcast where we're talking about the future of the car. Ed likes to say the future of mobility, but yes. I like cars. We're talking about EVs. We're talking about alternative fuels. We're talking about cars without steering wheels. Where are we going and how will we get there? I am joined, as always, by my co-host,
Ed Lowe.
None lower. He's Mr. MotorTrend, as I like to say. And Ed, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm looking forward to this episode. I'm looking forward to our guest.
We have a guest that our wives are much more excited about than we are.
Well, I was going to say, on behalf of my wife, I'm looking forward to Mr. James Marsden.
Mr. James Marsden. Former guest model.
Hollywood
A-lister.
Teddy on Westworld.
Big car guy.
Cyclops.
Yeah, X-Men.
And X-Men, among many, many other.
Often found on the other side of a animatronic animal or a digital animal. Hop and Sonic the Hedgehog. He's very good. Very comedic actor, surprisingly.
And as you've told me, and we will find out, apparently a super legit car guy.
For real. Yeah, no, for
real.
We'll
find out. We'll see. I got some questions.
I mean, we're friends in real life, and mostly what we talk about is cars.
Okay.
A little bit of watches, mostly cars.
Okay.
But that leads into what I think would be a good topic. So obviously our wives, and it sounds like your wife especially, finds Mr. Marsden quite sexy. I think dreamy, yeah. And without question, cars are sexy and dreamy things, especially the more exotic stuff, Ferraris and Lambos and Maseratis, and older cars seem to be even sexier. But can an inevitable car, a EV, something that's hydrogen powered, ever be as sexy as like a big V12 Ferrari? That's the question of the day. That's
the question we'll ultimately get to ask James. But
I'm asking you.
But let's talk about it first. Yes, I think so. I think we're in woke culture. So we're right now in this moment in time, we are sort of redefining what is beautiful, what is sexy for amongst men and women and whatever else you might want to call yourself, all shapes, all sizes. And I think to extend that metaphor, if you will, look, I find things that are super mechanical or super technical or super nerdy. I think there's a certain amount of sex appeal in that someone is willing to go to that extreme. So it's funny because you said, could like a hydrogen car be sexy? And honestly, the latest Mirai, the Toyota Mirai, we've all talked about how
it's handsome.
It's a really good-looking car. Now, it is relative to where
it's coming from.
It came from.
Yeah, I think if you put it next to other good-looking cars, it's just kind of normal good-looking, but considering its like father was the most hideous, dorky thing imaginable.
No, there's no better redemption story than the leap in design from the first-gen Mirai to the second-gen Toyota Mirai. But I want to say that it is not only sexy, sort of conventional as a conventional vehicle, but that the underlying technology is incredible, right?
It is.
And for only available hydrogen powered vehicle currently,
but Honda had one first. Honda had the Clarity, the FC Clarity.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then to move off Mirai, can there be other vehicles non-traditionally powered, whether they're electric or plug-in hybrid, that are sexy? To your point, Ferrari has a couple of hybrids. Porsche's got the Taycan. Those are easy. I think we talked about in the last episode on the consumer level. Hyundai's doing some amazing stuff. Kia.
Yeah, I don't.
Are they not sexy, or are you just saying they're just good looking?
I just spent 4 hours in the Lamborghini Museum at the factory at San Agata Bolognese, and I was every 2 feet, my breath was being taken away. Like there was two Countachs. They had an early '70s LP 400 parked right by an '86, Quattrovalvole 5000S Quattrovalvole, whatever it is, and I stood there for 30 or 40 minutes just staring and comparing, contrasting, taking pictures, and in 50 years, will there be a Tesla museum, and will there be a Model S, what was the first one, the P85, and then a Plaid, And where will people dork out the same way? I don't think so. I just don't think so. No, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I've yet to see. Maybe the closest was the Audi, the RS e-tron GT. I think is devastatingly. No, the front's not perfect, but the hips and the rear.
Yes.
I think devastatingly good looking for a sedan. We still haven't seen the great two-door EV. We know those are coming, the great sports car. But like, you know what I mean? Like, what?
But is that? Well, hang on. But is that a car? Is that a car problem, or is that a car guy problem? Not even a problem. But your perspective is, you are from a generation that grew up on internal combustion cars, on cars looking a certain way, cars having sexy being defined by the dash to axle ratio, having a long hood and a small cockpit and a short deck.
V12s are sexy.
They are if you learned about them, or you were told by somebody that you looked up to.
I was.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm what about the kids? What about your son? Is he going to grow up thinking, well, he is, because you're going to tell him this is sexy? Or if you grew up without those kind of inputs, would you naturally gravitate to a shape like a Lucid?
Yeah.
That is, it is stunning. It doesn't look like much on the road, especially at night. It's got that iconic sort of light bar on the front and on the back.
Rear,
yeah. It's got the sort of floating roof. I mean, there's a much deeper conversation here about, is there sort of objectively is sexiness, can it be defined? Does it only apply?
Well, we know in car design, right? I mean, for a long time, one way to define sexy was like the E-Type, right? You have this big phallic object, massive dash to axle ratio. The roof is about twice as high as the rear wheel,
right.
And that's and then the center of the fender peaks are right over the center of the wheel. And there are these little visual tricks you can do.
Right.
Now, as engines totally go away, yes, there will probably be a new definition of sexy, but you also could make an EV that like uses those tropes. It hasn't happened yet.
So this is actually really interesting, because as we're doing this podcast, simultaneously we have a photographer that we're working with, world famous, world renowned. He's known as the Autofocus on Instagram, Kunal. He does amazing, fantastic imagery. He's been helping us out doing some of the images that hopefully you'll see alongside the content with InEVitable. And we had a great conversation about this as he was doing some of these sets about science fiction, about the sort of Blade Runner aesthetic we were going after. And he's like, because we talked about how there's not a lot of good science fiction out there today. In fact, Westworld was one of my favorites recently. But even that's an old Michael Crichton storyline. It was an old TV show, right? Old movie, right?
Yeah.
All of the old science fiction movies are being remade. There's the entire Star Wars series, Star Trek, right? Even Blade Runner. He brought it up. He's like, Blade Runner. We just did Blade Runner 2049. Where are the new ideas around science fiction? Where are the new ideas about automotive? We are
right.
The skateboard platform that EVs are based on allows you to do anything, literally anything you want. And there's very few original thinking. Canoe might be the most original shape that we're seeing.
And we can't say where, but we saw some canoes
we've seen them running around. But yeah.
And so cool.
Yeah. It looks like it's a canoe. It could go backwards or forwards.
But it's just whatever aesthetic the Volkswagen van had, the Type 2,
right.
It captures that in a way I haven't seen since the Volkswagen Type 2. You know what I mean?
Right. And Volkswagen is apparently bringing back that vehicle.
Yeah, they've been doing that since 2008.
Sure. But that, again, it's a recycled idea. So it's like...
I know what you're saying. I remember in this horrible, I won't even say his name, doesn't deserve this, horrible English teacher in high school, but he did say, I remember we're studying Shakespeare, and he's like, there's 38 plots. That's it.
Right. No new ideas, right?
There's no new ideas. It's 38 plots.
I hope that's not true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the deeper question, I think, as long as cars have steering wheels where you have to have a driver, facing a certain way, I don't think the design is going to be that radical. However, and this is, I think we'll both be retired or dead, and we talked about this, but, when cars no longer need steering wheels or pedals, when they really can drive themselves,
right.
I think that's when design really changes.
Well, I was even thinking, yes, and I would go a step further. When vehicles don't need steering wheels, but also are talking to each other, are talking to infrastructure, to networks,
and
to stoplights.
Just not going to happen.
Crashing goes to zero.
Yeah.
Your A-pillars, don't need to be this big around anymore, right?
Yeah.
You don't need a massive crumple zone. The thing literally, you could be imagine an open air, an entirely
But you
open
also
air
don't
vehicle.
need to. You don't need to face forward.
Right.
It could be like a train. It could
Right.
be sit wherever you want. Lay down. But I think that can really push design.
Right.
But then like all we've really been able to conceptualize is sort of like the canoe, or when we did our Apple Car project, it just becomes like a big potato, and like so. But that's not sexy. It's cool. It's innovative and different and everything. And again, the canoe. You can't call it sexy. Like I'm not gonna. It's not gonna take my breath away. I'll stop and stare at it because it's neat.
Right.
But like again,
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck is almost sexy. It's a weird.
It's so punk. It's sexy.
Yeah, but like you've had this, man. Like you see a Ferrari, like a 250 short wheelbase. You just stop. It's that good looking.
Yeah, the Miura does it for me.
Okay, the Miura does it for you. Right, great. For some reason, I'm missing the Miura appreciation gene.
Really? Oh, dude.
It's cool. It's just like
so low.
But I'm glad you brought up the Miura, right? So here you had a mid-engine car that they made look like a front-engine car because the Countach is the one where they're like, this is mid-engine. We're not going to have any dash to axle. We're going to have the door go into the front wheel, and we're going to have like 3 feet behind the driver, right? That was the first. The Miura. They had to put the V12 in sideways.
Yes.
Much to the car's detriment. It lowered. They had to lower the power. The transmission is crooked. You know what I mean? So I always look at that as like this weird compromise, kind of like the way I think the Model S looks just like a conventional sedan. Doesn't need to. I think it's a good-looking car, but didn't need to look like that. So the Lucid Air is like pushing. It's still isn't radical,
right?
But it looks less like a traditional car than the Model S.
I still think the Tesla is one of the best-looking vehicles.
The Model S
on the road, just in terms of its stance in that rear.
It's an icon. They got. I don't want to say they got lucky, but like. I see them new ones. I see Plaids and stuff, and like still looks totally contemporary, totally modern. Still looks as sexy and sexy is the wrong word, but like as athletic and mean and it looks valuable.
Yep.
And I look at the Model Y, Model X, Model 3 is kind of dorky a little bit. Model Y especially, pretty dorky looking proportions. Got the butt sitting up 2 feet in the air for some reason.
Packaging,
but like they could have. There's some SUVs that look good, but the S they just nailed. And even with the the redesign of the front end, it still works.
Right. So look, we're students of the game. We are interested, excited about this, but I'm actually very curious what James Marsden is going to think about it, because if he is the car guy you say he is, he's definitely going to have an opinion. I don't know anything about his background with EVs, or any of the hybrids or electrified vehicles.
I think a true car person pays attention to everything.
Sure,
you know what I mean. You're always worried. Like, look. Remember when the Prius came out, people were like, "This is it. They're gonna take our guns. Take our cars away." Like everyone was freaking out about it.
Right.
So So he'll be well versed, even if he isn't like an EV expert or doesn't hasn't owned one or something like that.
Well, great. I look forward to finding out, and
maybe he can answer if an InEVitable car can be sexy.
Yes, and whether he's excited about them. So, let's talk to James.
All right, we're sitting here. We've got James Marsden.
He beat you in the race.
Exactly.
So okay, we're talking about the Millie. Hang on, he beat me, but let me tell you. Should we do this? You want to do? I think we should do this. It'll be quick. I'll make it quick. So when part of doing a rally, right, is you have these horrible like special sections where it's like go 37 kilometers an hour for 32 seconds, go 40 kilometers an hour for 31 seconds, and you get graded on that, how close you get to hitting the marks, right? So Mercedes, when we did it, we both did it in a gull-wing. I had a better gull-wing. According to Rob, who was a passenger in both.
Less excuse why
they had a little iPad, and it would tell you the special sections, and it would tick it off, and when it was done, it would go to the next one. So we're at Monza, which is a famous bank track in Italy, and we're on the old bank section, and there were so many special sections that it scrolled down a page. So instead of starting on first, we started on the third, and all of a sudden, Rob, my co-driver, is like, "Oh, crap." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I'm so sorry." I go, "What?" He goes, "We blew it. We started on 3 instead of 1. And I'm looking at the banking, and you gotta go over 70 miles an hour to stay up on the banking. and I'm in a going. So pop it up to 110, and we pass every single competitor at 110 miles an hour on the banking. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever done in my life, and greatest
But
thing
huge
I ever
penalty
will do.
for doing that.
But anyways, James Marsden.
Yes. I thought it was going to be a long-winded excuse as to why he came behind you in time.
Yeah, no, but anyway, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing
Good.
great.
Thanks for having me.
We're so happy
Great
to
to
have
see
you.
you.
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Thanks for being here.
So we have you here because, we were saying we could go through your IMDb and tell everyone all the movies and TV shows and everything you've done.
But let's
modeling.
be honest, everyone knows.
Everyone knows, right?
The world knows
The whole
them.
world
Exactly.
knows you,
Everyone-
right?
Our wives certainly know.
Well, yeah,
If you've ever seen a movie with an animated rodent,
Yeah.
you know my full...
Yeah. Well, I was going to say with the animated. That's true. You've done two, right? I mean, was Sonic is a rodent? What is a hedgehog?
3 total.
Okay.
Yeah, Sonic. I did a movie called Hop.
Hop is great.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
At the time I had a 3-year-old. He's now 4, but like.
Right. Great because you got some time off. You just put the kid in front of the movie.
Well,
and
but
you
I
could go
actually
do
liked
some
the
things.
movie. It was you and
nice.
Kelly, and I
Very
was
kind
like,
of
this is
you.
actually like a good movie. Like, you should do comedy more often. It's really
Thanks.
But what people don't know about you is that you're this massive, kind of almost secretive car guy. Like you sort of hide it well.
Yeah, it's always been a passion of mine. I mean, since I grew up in Oklahoma, and I was driving my mother's car before I probably should have been. Well, legally before I should have been driving it.
That's
but
good.
it was dirt roads and where we were, and which at a fun young age, I started to learn the physics behind counter steering and oversteer and understeer and all of that with an old, a 1981 Oldsmobile Cutlass,
Nice.
or something
Nice.
like
Yeah,
that.
that's good.
But yeah, it's always been. It was to me. It was like this. When I turned 16, it was like that was your first real freedom, right?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
just- and
Bingo.
the power you felt behind the wheel, and and you got your tunes going, and so I just felt at home behind the wheel, and I always had this dream of. Actually, training and when I was younger, I actually wanted to be a race car driver.
Oh, no kidding. You're
but,
kind of built like one.
but
You're
the-
actually built
am
like
I?
an Indy driver. Yeah.
Man, why did I get
Mr.
into
Collins.
acting? I
Yeah.
thought I should have done this.
Well, let's
now
wasted-
I'm trying
you've
to do it
wasted
now,
your
and I'm
life.
far too old. Which I have a question about. I was with Jensen Button. I don't want to get off track.
Yeah,
Yes,
go
a
on.
couple
That's on
weeks
track.
ago.
That's on track.
And I forgot to ask him this, but he said, we do a lot of karting out in Fontana.
I've
we
seen
saw
you
you
there.
out there. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And we, meaning me and my son, not me and Jensen. But Jensen's
Right.
out there. He's been out
Yeah.
there a few times. And he was telling me about how there was a young kid named, I think his name's Nicky Hayes. He races with Phil Giebler, the guy who was we go karting with.
Right.
And he said, Nicky's like, I don't know how old he is, 14, 15. And he's, Jensen's struggling to keep up with this kid. Because, he's a kid. I'm like,
He's lighter.
I guess, is that it? Is
Yes.
it like,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh,
so,
power to
that's
weight.
the whole thing.
all right. Okay. So
Grams,
what happens
grams
from-
matter in karting.
Right, of course.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, other than that, like, how do you outgrow being a race car driver? Other than maybe reaction
Your
time?
reflexes
Okay.
degrade, and
All right.
also I think as you mature, you realize how precious life is.
I think maybe that's
You know what I
it
mean?
too, right?
Especially
Like
once you have a kid, it's like
I'm still lucky to be here. I should call
Yeah,
it quits.
yeah.
Right,
Right,
okay.
Or you haven't
Well, then there
that
you go.
14-year-old hasn't had that hasn't hit the barrier or been T-boned in a cart and
Right.
broken a rib or
So
something.
their fear
So,
level is,
yeah, exactly,
like,
and they don't even
non-existent.
know. So.
And I will say, I mean, you know this too. Like race car drivers, the really successful ones tend to. They just see the world differently. It's just like they got to score now. Score.
Right,
They don't.
right.
They have no long term plan.
No, it's
they
lethal.
need
Do
a
it,
good team
yeah.
to like. All right, if you want to win this season, you got to like do this.
Which,
So-
yeah, well, I could just talk about this. I mean, this would be a long podcast because I was just watching the Saudi Arabia race last week.
Oh, that was
insane.
that could be the whole episode. But Ed, and I know the answer to this because you're from Oklahoma, but also Ed wanted to know if you knew how to drive stick.
Oh yes, yes.
Wow, look,
I said-
this is like,
And no.
this is a Hollywood sort of question, right?
Although I
Because-
did not, yes, it's true. I mean, you don't assume these days that people
Yes.
know how to drive a standard
Yeah,
manual
but you
transmission.
have a GT3 Touring, which is manual only.
I had one.
Oh, you had one?
I had
Oh,
one.
no, what
I had
happened?
one. I made a mistake.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I didn't crash into a wall. I had this moment where I got the car. I was very lucky to have it. It was absolutely perfect. And I had to go away to work for 8 months, and it was just going to sit there. And I was over the course of the next month or two. Or no, actually, I had it for about 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
And I just had this. I was like, I have 3 kids. None of them have gone through school yet. I have to. What am I doing buying this car? And I've always just been like, I can't afford that. It's like, I mean, whether I can or
Practical.
not, it was always like a feeling of, And we were driving around L.A., and L.A. is, you got to be careful which roads you're on. 'Cause
Yep.
it's just like, especially a brand new GT3 Touring.
Right. Sure.
It was like, and I was talking to Spike and all these other guys and said, you just have to drive it into the ground. Just drive it like you stole it.
Yep.
And so I sold the car.
Yeah.
Because I didn't feel like it was, I don't know, some weird psychological thing. Like I didn't deserve it, or I just, not yet. Like get it later. And
Okay.
And it wasn't
That's
like
so
a
interesting.
sell for profit thing.
But
Like
this
I
is
broke
recently.
even.
Like you're established. Touring is a couple years old.
It was a 2019. It was one of the last ones to roll off.
No, what I'm saying is like in your career, like you've made it.
I guess
you know what I
though,
mean? Like
it's one
you've
of
done
those-
well.
That's very
Well, he
nice.
has
of you. I
redeeming,
have,
Jonny.
I have, but it's I got a big burn rate.
Yeah.
There's a lot going out.
I understand that. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
I think I get in my own head and I think like, oh man, as soon as I get this car, something's going to happen.
So I
I'm gonna
sense
need all this-
regret. You regret that.
Tremendous regret.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Absolutely. I
As
know
long
I
as-
should not have done that.
Okay.
Should not have done it. And it was like a break-even thing. It was just like I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if
How
I'm
many
ready
how
for-
many miles were on it when you sold it?
Not enough. You want me to cry during this
Oh, okay,
podcast.
not enough.
Oh,
Because by the way, the
was-
last 2 or 3 months, have you looked
I know.
at prices of touring?
I know.
Like
Ever since we had the supply chain issues.
200.
I
Why
know.
you tell- why you tell- why you tell
Oh,
them?
why not? I'll tell you exactly how it spec'd.
Yeah.
How many miles were on it.
Yeah.
Well, I won't tell you. Well, I've already told you what I sold it for because you knew what I bought it for.
Right.
But
Yikes,
it was
yeah.
it was
Yo.
Well, hang on.
Yeah, whatever.
Let's go back.
Let's go back.
And yes, because you said I got my license the day I turned 16.
Of course.
I can tell you what car did you get that in? What did you take the test in?
I think I took the test in my mother's car, which was the Cutlass that I
Okay.
mentioned. But my first car was a 1986 Pontiac Firebird.
Oh wow,
Oh, nice.
Mine was an
350
'85 Pontiac
Okay.
station wagon.
Okay.
Same engine.
Somehow that's
Pretty-
cooler. Mine was
yeah.
a piece of crap. Mine was,
Mine was good.
same
Was it-
engine.
Was it red?
No,
or,
mine was like a weird 304. It was a whole
red or black?
It was red.
It's red. Okay.
Yeah, it was
all right.
red.
All right.
Called
How long was your hair?
Lovebird.
How long?
Oh,
king of Oklahoma.
I can give you a photo of exactly what I looked like. There was a curly mullet.
Nice.
Yes, and it was I didn't think it was a mullet at the time. I just thought it was
Sure,
like
haircut.
become longer hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
Fond memories of the car?
loved the car.
Okay.
Loved the car, and I was always looking for a puddle on a turn,
Sure.
so that I could just let the back end come out a little bit. There was a moment when because the alternator kept breaking on that car. I mean, it was really like everything was always broken. Sure.
Yeah.
I replaced the alternator 6 times or something
Wow.
crazy. But the front struts went out, and there was a road I used to go down on my way to school that had this sort of undulating ups and downs, and if I hit it fast enough, the car would like bounce like this, and I would just kind of keep hitting the gas, and I could bounce the car all the way to school because there was no shock absorption.
Like front was off the ground bounce?
No,
Clone?
not front wheels off the ground, but just the car,
just
kind of, there was
just
nothing
in motion,
stabilizing
a wave,
me,
right.
the shock of whatever. But it was, I have great fond memories of that car. It was-
What did you come to Hollywood in?
So that was not as sensible a car, so I sold that and got a 1984. I went back in time, an 84 Honda Accord hatchback.
Nice.
Oh,
Okay.
actually,
All
really
right.
nice car.
Yeah.
Really nice cars.
That's-
84 Accords were
yeah.
those were stellar.
Yeah, it was the 84 specifically.
That,
I mean,
that
right
era,
around
there,
83 I think
Great,
was
I
when it was
kinda
new.
bummed out.
Light blue?
No, it was blue, though. It was the blue of your sweater. Or
Okay.
your
My
All
hoodie.
right.
yeah, it was
All
like a kind of a midnight blue color.
And
It
that
had
must-
louvers on the back window.
2 for
Yeah,
2.
that had to be manual.
It was manual.
Yeah, it had to be
Yeah,
manual.
it was manual.
Yeah, those were manual only, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
My buddy had an RX-7, and he let us drive the car, and that's kind of how I learned to drive a manual.
Okay.
Just kind of self-taught.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I didn't learn how to heel toe until
racing school.
recently.
Racing school.
Okay.
I mean, I got an old NB Miata,
Okay. Nice.
With my son.
Oh, that's the one your kid
was
has.
like 16.
Yeah. I saw. We saw that at Streets of Willow that day.
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. When I wasn't there.
You weren't there.
I was
I
not
was sending you
there.
pictures.
How did you know it was his?
I know his son.
Oh,
yeah, from
Yeah,
karting.
so I take my son
and
Jack
Jonah
out.
was there. It was
Right.
The whole
I was
thing.
supposed to be there.
You were supposed to be there. I met both your kids and your ex and everything.
That's right. They all came out to watch him go around the streets.
New daddy's here.
Yeah. But we got an old Miata to just kind of track it out. It was and my son really wanted to learn.
Yeah,
how to drive.
it's like barely streetable. It's a track car.
Yeah. And that's when I learned how to heel toe.
Okay, but what did you do with Ferrari? 'Cause that's how I met you. Was when you were with Schaefer, who
Mike Schaefer.
Michael Schaefer, we love him.
Michael
we do love
Albert
him. We
Schaefer.
give him the finger.
We will give him the finger later for sure.
Great.
For sure. But you were doing something with Ferrari when I met you, and he was taking pictures of it. What was that?
So I had a relationship with them for a little bit where I was training to get my IMSA license to race the Ferrari Challenge.
Yeah.
And so I got about 2 of I think there's 4 total courses, and I got 2 in. And then I had to go away for a while for a show, and it was tough. It was tough to find get the scheduling right, and then COVID hit, and I hadn't really gone back to finish all of that. So, but I was training at Circuit of Americas, which is now my home, Austin.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But
what were you driving for that?
I was driving the 488 GTV.
Oh, nice.
But they let you drive it was 488. You can take the super fast out if you wanted to, but I was for the training it was 488, and then you start to step. You take little steps into the challenge car.
Yep.
Which at my level of training I didn't get actually to drive the car, but that was like the next course I was getting ready to take. But they had a kind of like an autocross cone set up in a parking lot nearby because they didn't want us to, me and the other guys who were, ladies and gentlemen, who were training to race on Circuit of America. So they actually did a little
that's
competition.
Weird. Okay, yeah.
And it was like 25, 30 people, and I won the competition.
Oh, yeah?
Very, very
Nice.
cockily.
I mean, no, dude. In racing, take the win.
I was proud of it. I was proud of it.
Take the win. Good
Got
for you.
a pair of Ferrari sunglasses and a keychain.
Nice.
But it was just enough to make me feel like, I could be good at this, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is,
Did it
you
make
got to be
you-
careful with that feeling.
I mean, real quick.
Yeah.
I remember, so this guy, we work with Jethro. He's the host of Top Gear USA with Dak and everything.
Boddington.
He's got a lot of racing experience. Again, no one pays him, but he's done the Nürburgring 24 a number of times.
Spa, 24.
Won his class, yeah. And one time we were driving around in a Lamborghini, and I was just driving good. It was one of those days you're driving good, and he goes, "You ever thought about racing?" And I'm like, "Well, I've thought about it." Literally right off the road, nearly killed him. Like it was like as I was saying that.
I mean, it's true,
So,
right?
Yeah,
Just when you start to get comfortable
and,
or cocky.
he said, "I never should have said that."
Right. No, because there's always going to be someone. My son's quicker than me. Like, he's got.
He's fast. I saw him go.
Yeah.
He was like legit.
Does he know it?
Does he know what?
That he's faster than you?
Oh, does he know? Yes.
And does he rub it in?
No, he's very sweet.
He's a very mellow kid. Yeah,
Mellow,
very,
sweet kid.
very
But
relaxed.
I kind of like he's got that thing where he's like, maybe I want to get into this karting thing and get competitive, and then
I mean, he's
take it
also
to
the
Formula 4
he's the right size for like IMSA or something. He's got
is.
that build.
Yeah, he was out there because when we were out there with Jonah Nolan, and he was there with his brother's son.
Nephew, yeah.
He was with his nephew.
Chris's son, yeah.
And I think his name is Rory.
Yeah.
I forget. And
Yeah,
they
something
were
like that.
chasing each other out there, and it was just fun to watch the young kids go after each other. But yeah, he's quick. But I don't know. I've waited this long to really, really get into racing, which is probably a bad idea. Should have started a lot sooner.
Look,
but
Paul
it's
Newman. Paul
kinda-
Newman was 48, I think, something
Yeah.
like that, and he won Le Mans. But he won Le Mans when he was older than that. But I think he started getting into cars when he was like 48.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point I would probably need to. I don't know if I have the backbone to really.
You could be a team owner.
When I was gonna
Yeah,
do
yeah.
I was gonna with Ferrari. I was going to finish my courses at Laguna Seca, and then do a race there, a Ferrari Challenge race.
Oh, yeah.
But I also was like, hold on, I want to make sure I'm ready for this, and I don't want to be out on the track with people who aren't ready either.
Well, that's the problem with
Right.
series like that is a lot of people aren't ready, but
Right.
they're so
'Cause
wealthy
they're just
that
like,
what's
it's
the difference?
part of buying the car,
Yeah.
right? You can get this.
Yep.
So I was like, I want to make sure that I'm properly get some track time to get good at it. But they offered also a like kind of a time trial thing called the Club Challenge or something, where you're just out there setting your fastest.
Yeah,
lap.
it's like
And I was
qualifying.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
do that.
That's the way to do it. Open track is the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Because wheel to wheel, I didn't know if I could really have the.
Also, you probably
the
have a hard
berries to do it.
time like getting insured. Like if you're doing a film, like the
That's another
studio
thing.
might be like,
That's
no,
another-
you're not
that's a-
going to be
that's
racing
another thing.
Ferrari Challenge.
Right.
Because I was shooting at the time. When I was doing the Ferrari training. It was I was shooting Westworld, and I was like, oh, right. Well, they're going to see this when I post about this.
Right,
What are
right.
you know, what are you doing out
Yes,
there?
well, see, but luckily that was HBO.
It was,
So they're okay. They would know. I was going to say if it's like Netflix or Amazon, they may not be like savvy enough yet. They haven't had that experience
they're-
where
and I was
where Mark Hamill hasn't like stuffed the Corvette yet.
right. Well, it was on. We were on hiatus. It was between seasons, and
Sure.
and I wasn't like I said, I wasn't going wheel to wheel yet.
But I think Ed has a transition question.
Well,
Speaking of
yeah,
Westworld,
but so we're almost there because I really love I love Westworld, but I do want to ask two more. We've already established your car, your credentials,
bona fides,
yes.
bona fides.
But what is the first? And you talked about the GT3 Touring. What is the car when you first your first big series or
X-Men
movie?
paycheck.
Yeah, well, the first big paycheck. What was the splurge?
I mean, I'm trying to think of like the splurge car that's exciting, because
Or embarrassing, or like, man, I bought this thing. I was like,
Oh, well, embarrassing. Well, I was, Jack, my son's 20. He's going to be 21 in a month. So I was 27 when I had him. I hadn't had crazy success yet. I've had success, but it wasn't like, I got Mr. Moneybags. I can buy whatever I want. But I mean, I remember buying my first car. My dad helped me buy my first two cars.
okay.
And I got an Audi. I think it was an A4. Or was it S4? No, it wasn't S4. It was an A4. It was like sensible.
Sensible. I was going to say, it's a very sensible car.
Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it was
we
like-
had an A4. Yeah, yeah.
I had that for a bit. It was a manual as well, and then I started having kids, and it was like a Toyota 4Runner, and it was like a Honda Odyssey minivan. Which, by the way, I drove that.
Don't.
No, I drove that for a few years in L.A.
Yeah.
with the greatest pride. Loved that thing. I took it to school, and I got a compliment from there was a couple there.
I'm going to leave you two alone.
This is the best episode ever.
Several people said, seeing you, James Marsden, get out of a Honda minivan.
Yeah, this was the plot to
at
get
your
Shorty.
kid's school is the sexiest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, and it is, and rightfully so.
And I didn't. I mean, it was like.
I'm driving a Honda Odyssey right
it's
now.
hard for me.
Yeah, you want to, you can go drive
But I was like,
Odyssey
cool,
after the
man.
show.
I was
Right.
like, I love this.
This is the which generation is this? This is the one that.
This is a 2008, I think.
Okay.
Like
Do it have the
that.
dual sliding doors? Like,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was decked out. It was decked out. That was my big splurge. Just
This is
went
great.
Full on touring.
This is so bad.
We'll tell you later why this
Get
is
the
awesome.
GT3 touring. Let's talk about the Odyssey.
Exactly.
touring.
Oh, this is so
I'm
good.
out of here. It's been fun. It's
All
been
right, all right. So we got the splurge. What did you drive in here? What did you drive today to us?
Before I got the minivan, I had a BMW 540.
Okay.
I think I never went through the M. I was always just like, again, I was like, I was too scared to spend a ton of money on it, And also, like, when you're working as an actor, a lot of times you're out of town, so your car's just kind of sit here.
right.
I'm always leasing cars, but
We have to get less level-headed celebrities.
No. These guys are great. I love the
I
relatability.
want the ones that are like, I got a pink Maybach,
Right.
Because
no, I had Lexus GS 400, I think, at some
Okay.
point.
GS is sensible.
good.
It's a good
I mean,
450.
I was
Yeah,
a
good
dad.
car.
Like,
Good
I was
car.
toting kids around.
Yeah.
I didn't.
But the kids are older now. What did you show up in today? That's
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying
okay.
I don't. I'm technically not a California resident anymore.
Okay.
So all my, I have a 911 in Austin.
okay.
It's a 2012, and when I drove here today,
Sweet car. Yeah.
you're going to love this.
Better not be a friggin' minivan.
It's not a minivan,
Okay,
but it's
good.
a Honda Accord.
I love the Honda Accord.
Dude,
Great car.
I
Yeah,
love
great car.
that car.
My brother-in-law has an Accord.
I love that car.
Phenomenal.
I bombed down the hills in it.
very
I
light
took them all- I
steering.
mean, it's
it's
really
good.
nimble.
It's look, for that class of car, midsize
Yes.
family sedan, it transcends the class.
really does.
And I have a lot of people, they're like, should I get a 545 or 550? I'm like, you should get a Honda Accord because
You get
it
the
actually
Sport?
you get the
drives
V6
better.
now.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
the turbo,
yeah.
the 2.5, I think, something like
Big
that.
turbo,
it's like,
yeah.
you're 0 to 60 in
Under
5
6.
seconds.
Yeah, it's under
So 5.5.
6. No, I fully support. I love the Honda Accord.
Great.
It's a
great
phenomenal
visibility.
car. Yeah, kills the Odyssey.
We've talked about this on our text chain, haven't we?
Yes.
About having buttons and knobs and
Yeah.
and everything's just a touch screen now. It just drives me crazy. I know that's just
Okay.
where it's going, but the Honda
partially.
still has that.
Yeah. Well, they put it back. It didn't. For a long time, the Honda got rid of knobs, like volume knobs, and it was like
Finally put it back.
It was us and other publications just
Right.
haranguing them.
I remember reading these. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
like volume knob.
Volume knob.
Yeah, it's so crucial.
AC cold hot.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
well, like
you can
in
do it
Lucid-
without looking. You can do it without tapping.
Lucid did it so well, and I got to get you one of those. But it's all screen, but it's like the temperature, the fan speed, and the volume knobs are not only knobs; they're massive and big things that it's just and you can do it blind. It's great. It's
Well,
great.
I won't tell Elon.
Well,
he's
look,
getting- yeah.
this is great
This is-
because I
yeah,
feel
let's
like
lead this
so we
in.
are leading into where I wanted to go, which is I was a huge fan of Westworld. I loved your character on it. I love the whole premise. I'm a huge sci-fi dork, and there's a real dearth.
You can emphasize one of those words over the other.
Real dork about sci-fi. And there's a real dearth of it. There's not a lot of great movies or series out there, to be honest. And this one kind of checked every box. It deals with obviously robots or AIs, consciousness. Your character arc in that you were mainly you were exclusively in the Westworld. You were in.
Right.
So I wonder how much time you spent in your sort of headspace in the future and thinking about, I'm not human in this series. I'm basically a cyborg, a robot, or whatever. And does that translate at all? Do you think about that in the future that we think is inevitable?
Mm-hmm.
I get a strong sense that you're not so into, because that was in asking you all the setup questions. You haven't owned a Tesla. You've owned no hybrid. Or
I've not. I've owned a hybrid. Well, I shared a hybrid with my ex-wife, but
That doesn't count.
That doesn't count.
You're off the hook.
But I'm ready for it. I'm ready to jump into it. To be honest, I haven't really needed a car that much over the last however many years.
Okay.
I just as much as I loved them and loved driving, it's just been. But I have mixed feelings about the future.
Okay.
For everything that I just sort of detailed, which is I'm all for, obviously, let's go green and sustainability and all of that. I just don't want it to lose the soul of what it feels like to drive a car.
Okay.
There's a numbness that's starting to creep into some of these, and that's not EV specific. It's just every modern car, right? It's like I'm talking about take away the buttons and the knobs. It's it's all like touch screen or face recognition. I mean, it's as impressive as it all is. I'm an analog guy.
Okay.
I like the feedback. I like feeling the road through my steering wheel, and there's
So that leads me to two questions. One, because you said analog, and I'm staring at your beautiful IWC. But there was this moment in the '70s where it looked like quartz was taking out mechanical watches.
Right.
It really did.
Yeah.
And then not suddenly, but over the last 40 years, mechanical watches have at least in terms of value, of decimated quartz watches. No one cares about quartz watches.
Right.
You could have Omega. They make a phenomenal quartz watch. It doesn't matter.
Right.
They're
more accurate.
They're better in every way. They're literally better in every way.
Right,
but everyone wants, the new Tiffany Patek that came out yesterday, right? You're going to kill each other over it. Yeah. And so, as a watch guy, as the brand, I don't know. You played what's his face? You played
F.A. Jones.
You played the founder
of IWC in a short film with Tom Brady. The two kind of parallel stories for this short film to highlight the history of the brand.
But do you think and again, these watches are there's a lot of digital stuff that goes into making them, and you know what I mean. Even though they're still hand assembled and all that, there's a computer that figures out the little parts and all that. Right. Do you think that it's possible that while buttons are going away now, like in Honda's case, they do come back? Do you see maybe I don't know, cars get through this, or do you see it as just a downward slope?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's going to be two separate worlds, right? It's going to be, that you're going to have. You can't stop progress, right? It's just going to continue.
It's inevitable.
Yes,
it's inevitable.
As Ed might say.
Inevitable.
Yeah. So you're going to have. I remember the first time I sat in a Tesla, it was like, wait, where's the speedometer? Where's the
totally.
where's the tack? Where's the like? It's just an iPad sitting here, basically, right?
Yeah.
And it was the strangest feeling just to look at it. There's just sort of nothing there, and there's no intake in the front, right? It's like anyway. So I think that's going to continue, and I think there's going to be a whole other world where the enthusiasts, the people who just, I liken this to. I've done a lot of like home recording, like music stuff over the years, and my son's now getting into it and has the last couple of years, and he's now trying to find old, tube amps.
Yes,
right.
So am I.
And some people are like going back to like recording on reel to reel.
Yes,
because
tape.
there's something that's. I shoot a lot of film. I got into photography. It was a big hobby of mine for a long time. And I was there through the digital shift, right? So it went from in movies and also just on my own, photography passion. I noticed, and I of course went digital and got a digital camera and did all that as well, and it has tremendous benefits. But there is something different, right?
So,
it's like
a good Hasselblad, big,
just
wide
large
format,
just film, right? Inside of film, there's it's basically little silver halides that get tarnished. They're light sensitive, and they get tarnished when light hits them, and that's a physical thing that happens.
Yeah,
and you can whether they can articulate it or not, they can notice it. Like you don't have to know anything about photography to look at that photo and go, "This looks different than that.
Right.
Why does this look flat? And this looks like there's." Why does this photo feel like a memory, and this feels like an absolute digital representation of what I saw?
This is all Westworld right here.
Yeah,
right. Right. So, and with Westworld though, it's like if you can't tell the difference, does it matter? Right. There's a big line.
Right.
Well, I will say, and I wanted to bring this up because you have a 2012 911, which I believe
still naturally aspirated.
That's
a 991.1
and still hydraulic steering.
Still hydraulic steering.
It's all.
No. That was E-Pass. That was E-Pass. It was the 991.1. Yeah, 991.1. Yeah, was
the black edition.
Yeah,
it was one of the last ones, which it was like 2012 and a half.
Well,
right?
that's okay. Well, even better because
steering shifted, didn't it? They changed.
Yes,
that was the 991.1 was when the electric. I'm almost positive that's when electric steering came in, and everybody went lighting their hair on fire.
Yeah,
right.
and
it wasn't ideal at the first year.
Well, that's the point I'm making. It's like so now you have a car that has that. All the vehicles now are going to electric power steering. They're all throttle by wire. They're all brake by wire. They're all of this because now you have to have a digital interface between all of the driver control. So you can do things like adaptive cruise control. You can do the lane keep assist.
Not instead of warning.
Yeah, all of these systems now require it to go through a computer. But I think it's fair to say that the manufacturers, they listened, they heard the first feedback on a lot of these cars. They most of it was like, this is terrible, it's artificial, it's overboosted, it's underboosted. And now we don't even question, like we've sampled a lot of supercars.
New
lately.
GT3. I drove it back to back a couple weeks ago. My buddy has a 991.2 touring like yours, 2019, and like the new one made that one feel like a couch.
I think I just read. Did you just post this?
Yeah,
I read
yeah,
this.
yeah. I was so shocked. The steering felt sloppy, and I remember writing. I went on the launch of the 991.2, and I remember writing like, I don't know how they could have gone better than 991.1 GT3, but I think it's the best car ever made. Well, they did it.
They always do.
And then this new one,
like. Do.
I was making a joke before I really drove them back to back. They're like, everyone's like, how's the new GT3? I'm like, it's 11% better. It's like 70% better. It's
wow, really?
So good.
Well,
yeah.
is that from the suspension shift? Right, they did some changes.
They changed from, I think it was always McPherson struts, and I don't know, whatever it was, and everyone's gonna pillar me now. But now it's double control or double A arms up front or wishbones.
I think I was reading something about why.
That's part of it for sure, but it's just a lot of changes. It's stiffer. It's meaner. It's harder,
and it's like under 7 minutes at the Nürburgring, right?
Yeah. Considerably.
And they were like,
under.
"Why isn't this new GT4 RS as quick?"
No
Doesn't
suspension.
have the suspension.
Doesn't have the suspension.
Wider tires. Didn't have a lot of stuff,
there's a lot of reasons why, but yeah.
Well, that's interesting. The comparison between the 9912 and the 992 GT3, because I didn't know.
But it got more
there.
digital going from
right. That's the part I was trying to get to, which is it. And I think specifically steering, because it's something, your hands are like the most sensitive things you have. And can you feel, is it like you can feel the texture of the road, like in a modern car that has that digital interface between, or Have you driven a 930 yet?
Oh yeah, many.
Like where,
very,
like
very slow old car. He owns one.
Wait, 930 is that the Widowmaker?
yes,
Yeah,
right.
So where there you literally can feel the road because it is not only not digital steering, it's not even power assisted steering.
Right,
so
right.
it's super manual.
Yeah,
And
there's also very little metal. I mean, you know what
the
I mean?
wheel
Like, there's no
dips,
safety.
the wheel dips, the steering wheel dips. The wheel
Right.
dips, the steering wheel
Right.
dips. You know, it's
super hooked up.
I'm still trying to get there with the modern cars to see whether they've been able to recreate that kind of feedback that comes through.
I hope the manufacturers listen to you all. I hope they listen to what also the enthusiasts want, right? Because I do think maybe it's not a zero-sum game, right? Maybe there is a world where you can have the efficiency and you can get the updates and all the things that make all the the positives of progress and everything being a supercomputer and you're just driving the supercomputer.
Right.
But I think that's the next thing they need to achieve is like, how can you integrate?
Well, and they're trying,
right?
Because you think about the pressure a car company's under. Like, you got to do this, you got to make us happy, but also you got to be able to walk away from a serious crash. Everyone, you don't want people to die.
Right.
Oh, by the way, also you can't pollute.
Right.
And it's like those are totally incompatible. You know what I mean? Like, so to make it safer, it becomes heavier. More polluting. Heavier, handles worse. Make it handle better. Now it's less efficient. I mean, it's what I mean?
Yeah.
It's constantly at odds.
Well, is there? I mean, you've also seen the point I was trying to make earlier was like maybe that's going to continue. Maybe there isn't a world where they both can kind of coexist, where you get that sort of real feedback and the sort of joys of driving. Like we're getting to a point where what we're creating is there's only so fast you can go in a car. Like we're watching F1 cars. Like okay, I think we've taken it to the limit of what you can do behind the wheel of a car and still stay on the ground. Right?
Well,
we're getting there.
Well, yeah.
But at some point, they're going to have to go, all right, maybe there is going to be let's.
Although,
what I mean is like, it's not just about speed. It's not just about, it's about, I think what we're seeing now is like, it's easy to go fast.
Yeah.
Right?
Good point. Yeah.
Easy to go fast.
Yeah, easier than ever.
What's more fun to drive? A McLaren 765 LT, which I drove over the weekend. I was like, this thing wants to kill me. I mean, it is.
It does.
Brutal power. I mean, like, it's an amazing scalpel of a machine.
That's the first car I've driven where I'm like, you know what? It is too much. Because I think the 720 is like actually perfect.
720
but
amazing.
the 6.5 is like, all right, it's too much. After 24
But are you going to the
acclimate.
Miata question?
Yes.
I can sense
you anticipated right where I was going.
Yes.
It's like, what's more fun? What's like your overall just sort of sports car fun to drive? And I would take probably. I mean, of course, I'd take the 765 that's in my garage, but as far as like that feeling and driver enjoyment, I would take the Miata. Huh. I mean, I don't know.
We had we did the same thing. We had our performance vehicle of the year, and we had the GT3, we had the Lamborghini STO, we had the AMG GT Black Series, we had
Big Cadillac,
we had the CT4 and the CT5 V Black Wings. We had
M3, M5,
M5. I was doing way too fast in the M5, and I looked down. I'm like going, "Wow, look at how fast I'm going!" And look at how I didn't know I was going this fast.
Right.
And
how fast, Ed?
1, 2, something, like
that's not so bad.
Yeah, I know, but still,
he's lying.
The point was, I could be in a car. We also had like the Subaru BRZ. We had the Toyota GR86. So we,
Veloster
N, and you can,
car.
and you can be going half that speed and feel it and enjoy it, and it's like it's.
Yeah. But I would point out you could be in the Lamborghini STO and be going 3 times that speed and really having even more fun.
True.
So,
Yes,
but it's just again, it's like you're paying for it.
Well, the one thing I did want to mention, because you did mention that we're going faster than we've ever gone before. Speed is kind of cheap. You can make the argument that EVs are actually leading that charge, right? Like, you mentioned that you've been in a Tesla.
I'm going to take the baton now and tell you what I've driven. Did I tell you this? The Tesla that I did drive just recently was the Plaid.
Okay.
Oh.
And I've never felt anything like that. This is after I drove the 765 LT.
Yeah.
And that was just the most different thing I've ever felt in my life. It is immediate at whatever speed. Mm-hmm. That torque band is just like,
right.
And you just. There was a couple of people in the car with me, and they were like, "Stop! I'm getting sick."
People have that reaction,
right?
Yeah.
It is unbelievable,
right,
that
vertigo.
car. And it's a friend of mine. It's his the mother of his kids got it, and I don't think she knew. He said, Amy's getting a Plaid. I said, does she know what that is?
Right.
And he goes, I think. What is it? I said, I think she might have, because the name is misleading, of course.
But by the way, like now if you go to buy a Tesla, and it just like there's one and there's the one that's a little bit more expensive is the Plaid. They're not. That's
so
it.
If you have the money, you're like, I want the top. Like Plaid sounds like, this has got all the bells and whistles. No, it's got 1,100 horsepower, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Did you like the yoke?
I drove it twice. So at first I was like, it's not for me. I want to. I want to do this, but is it called a yoke?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a bow tie kind of.
Yeah. Are you a 10 and 2, a 9 and 3? Are you a hand over hand?
I'm just all over.
Are you
it.
Are you the G rider, like up top?
I'm all over it. If I'm racing, I'm 10 and 2. Yeah.
Okay.
And I try to. You're not supposed to.
Right. Shuffle.
You're right, but that was insane. That car. That was like, okay, we've gone too far.
Yeah.
I got out and immediately looked at the brakes.
Yeah.
I was like, what kind of stopping power does this thing have?
Right. Yeah, not enough, actually. Turns out they've changed it. But what you're experiencing is the limit of tire adhesion, because that's really where the power
that's
of
what
that
comes down
takes
to,
it.
Right?
Yeah, because I think not even the Plaid, but I think the P100D with Ludacris was the first car we ever tested that accelerated as hard as max braking. So it's like 1.4 Gs,
yes,
the same G's direction,
yes.
And that's just tire adhesion. Yeah. So for the Plaid, they actually had to step up the tire game to a better tire. But I just want to get back to what you said. Like, have we gone too far? I always go back to this whenever I'm writing about a car like that. It was one of our predecessors at MotorTrend when the Viper came out. Remember, 400 horsepower back in 89, 91, whenever the first Viper was, and it was like, I've never been launched off an aircraft carrier by a trebuchet in an F-16, but I can't say for sure if that's more or less violent. And it's just, in 20 years when there's 5,000 horsepower cars that are using rockets to move around or whatever, like they'll look back on the Model S and snicker at it, like, only 2 seconds?
I guess, but isn't that window like getting smaller of what you can achieve?
I don't know. Maybe.
How much faster can a car go without losing grip of a tire?
Well, like a top fuel dragster can do 0 to 330 in under 4 seconds.
Also,
seconds.
there used to be how much money does a person need, right? Like how rich?
Exactly.
So
I get more excited about what you can take through a turn.
Oh, that's why
that excites me way more than
totally
the Hellcats and the whatever.
I was realizing ever since the pandemic started, and I've really, we haven't really been together as MotorTrend. It's very rare we all get together. I haven't even used launch control in a vehicle since the pandemic started because I don't care. I don't really care how quick a car is. I've experienced the Tesla.
Right.
Like what else do you need? But everyone asks, like, how's launch control? I'm like, didn't even think to try it. Didn't even come up,
doesn't excite me.
But it's like I can't hit that corner at 105, which is rad. Right. Yeah, and it sticks.
Right. There's a friend of mine who's a test driver for McLaren, great driver named Paul Reese, and he. You know him? he great guy, and I know him through a friend of mine. And he took us out, actually, in the 720 here in up off Angeles Crest. And he was telling me about the Senna GTR that he was testing. And I forget what track he was at, but he was saying that the engineers were saying, you can go full flat through this turn. And every test driver was like, you can't. And every test driver came back, looked at the telemetrics, and said, I went full flat through this. I did it. And they're like, no, you
didn't. Yeah.
You lifted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's.
I bet you that was Eau Rouge. I bet you they were at Spa, and the corner was Eau Rouge because that's just a famous one to try and go flat. Like our friend Jethro did an entire video. I think he was on a Radical or something,
right.
And he tried to go flat, and I think he finally just did it. Like, well, I'll die. But it took him like 30 attempts or something, and he thought he was each time, and they would show him that he's flinching.
Yeah, it's crazy what cars can do now. It's just like you said. I mean, the Viper came out, it was like, we can't top this. We'll never top it. We're topping it.
Yeah,
of course we are. But like, what what's more exciting? I mean, at some point, like you said, I think maybe people come around, maybe not, to like there's something more than just straight line speed.
Yeah,
right?
and I go back to the watch analogy because, and really what you said about photography, how and this is going to get a little mystical, a little Westworldy, but like, there is something magic, and I don't really understand why I like mechanical watches the way I do, but like. There's just even like a pure wind up, manual watch. There's something to like the ritual of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that you actually like are physically moving metal through metal when you're winding it.
You create. It feels like there's a soul to something that you know when there are gears turning and there are actual levers being flipped and I don't know. You create.
So that's a great point though with digital cars, right? Do we lose?
Yes, that's my whole point.
Do we? Yeah.
Yes,
do we have to?
But we might, because for emissions and for safety and all that stuff. Safety, I mean, it's getting scary now with safety because, like, I'm not looking at the road when I should be, knowing that this thing's going to go bop, 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 bop if you're going to come up too quickly on another car in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, that's a dangerous, false sense of security. But
it's funny, though, by making a car safer for the people in it, you're making it safer, less safe for whatever it hits, right? You're adding weight.
Right.
So when cars went from like 3,200 pounds to with EVs 5,000 pound basically minimum
heavy
weight.
Is the Plaid?
5,000. They're all they're five. The Lucid's 5,000. They're all 5,000 pounds.
That's the next frontier for EVs.
Is like solid state batteries.
Losing weight. And once you can you imagine if you cut that thing even by a third and had the same level of power and torque available?
I mean, put wings on it.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Well,
seriously.
it's crazy because the Plaid I think is 1,020 horsepower.
Right.
The Lucid, which we haven't really got to
1,111.
Yeah. So
1,100.
and that's two motors. That's two motors, right? So they have a 3-motor version coming. It'll be minimum 1,400 horsepower. Probably like 1,600 horsepower. It's capable of 2,000, but they turn it down for whatever reason. And like it's going to be nuts,
Remember when we went to? I think it's still a thing out there, but like the 80s or 90s like bodybuilding championships.
Oh, it's
right?
it's crazier than ever.
Sometimes playing the old videos at the gym I work out at.
Yeah.
And there was a moment. It feels like maybe it's still just as but. These people were just getting.
Oh, you mean like Ronnie Coleman?
Just
muscle
guys were never big enough, and they just became this like.
Yeah. That was like Ronnie Coleman era when they were just everyone so massive. Yeah, Flex Wheeler.
That's what we're doing with horsepower. Right now.
Yeah.
Cars. It's like okay, wait a second. We've sort of lost perspective as to what we. Forget the word need. Right. Of course, this is all what we want. Right. We want like bragging rights to say that number, and we also want to feel it. Our body wants to feel it. Right.
I'll never forget. Hennessy, John Hennessy.
Yeah.
So I was with John, and I was driving a 911 Turbo S across country, and I stopped by Hennessy's shop, and I was going to drag race. He had at the time it was a 750 horsepower Cadillac, which was obscene. It was a CTV coupe that it was 556. He tuned it to 750, and the Porsche was slaughtering it because it's all wheel drive, just absolutely leaving it for dead. We did like 20 races because he didn't want to be beat, but Porsche won. And I was talking to him, and I go, so do you tune these? Because he'll tune anything. He was tuning a McLaren when I was there. Right. He's like, yeah, we'll tune this. I'm like, why would you bother tuning this? He's like, Johnny, two good old boys, they each buy the same car. Man, I got to beat my buddy.
Right.
And I think you'll never get away from that. Like, you could buy a Plaid, but then if, like, your buddy buys a Plaid.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Well, I was just at SEMA and just seeing all the just sort of the world of the aftermarket, tuning, it's just exploded in the last.
Oh, it's crazy.
Was that your first SEMA?
Yeah, first
time.
By the way, like the fact you go to SEMA is like that. That's I don't even go to SEMA.
Well, I went because I did the show early in the year called Celebrity Joyride, with Ant Anstead, and we built. We took an old 1963 Buick Electra, and just basically took the body off, restored the body, and popped it on top of a Karma Rivera GT.
Right,
and
we should talk more about that. But I mean, that's actually
we'll have him back. Just getting started.
Yeah, it was fun. But we were showing it at SEMA, and so I was there for that. But it's just eye opening how many just walking through those halls like. That's a huge world that's going to continue to grow. So I think that there's going to be options for whatever you want moving forward.
I don't know. That's the existential question. Does it? Like, here's the thing. I get a strong sense, Mr. James Marsden, huge car guy, huge analog car guy, has a long history of driving high-performance vehicles and racing them. But is it inevitable in his future? Is there not going to be a hybrid sports car, an electric sports car? You spent a lot of time with Porsche. You owned a couple Porsches. You've done racing with Ferrari. They both are offering electrified, so EV or hybrid performance. Are you like, nah, not interested?
Absolutely, I will. Yes, I'll have an EV very soon.
I'm not trying to sell you on
no,
one.
and that's for. I would use that car for transportation. And
well, let me.
So not, but not. So that's a clear point to make. That, but not as a performance car. You're not interested necessarily in the sporty, sporting end of
like
the hybrids.
Like the Tesla 3, the performance. I mean, if I got one, I'd probably it would have to have some.
But you're not the Ferrari. Nothing from. They're going all.
Of course,
hybrid.
they get the.
Well, Mike, I wrote down some questions which we've probably rightfully ignored, but one of them was like the campaign you did with Ferrari.
Right.
Like, could you see yourself, your brand, the James Marsden brand, could you see yourself associated with an EV, or is it not sexy enough?
No. I think I'm speaking just like my passion for cars and what I hope doesn't get lost with the transition, with all this progress towards EV, which I am behind 1,000%. I just get I don't like seeing some of that get lost, but maybe it's inevitable that it has to. Inevitable.
Yes.
So
and thought of inevitable, that it has by the way.
I love the name.
Anytime someone says it, he's like,
I don't think. There's just too. Listen, what I learned about this culture is that there's so many people out there. It's a massive culture, the driving culture, like getting behind the wheel of a car, and
it's crazy, right? It's crazy.
Just feeling that connection with that machine. That's too strong for any of these, Lucid, Tesla, whoever, to ignore. I would guess that there's going to be something that is going to try to cater to that. So, or they're going to do their best to, but maybe there's going to reach a point where like something's got to give.
But it does tie back into Westworld a bit, where you actually have a lot of people, everyone at this table included, that are in love with machines. Like literally love. Right. I love cars. I love cars.
We're talking watches, like you like.
And I'm much more in love with cars and watches, but like I literally am in love with certain cars. Like maybe affairs is the right way to put it. But,
well, and let me ask you, like, what are some of the traits or characteristics of the cars that you fall in love with? I will say that sometimes the car's fault or shortcoming can actually be what gives that car character.
Sure,
the things like when that '86 Firebird. I had to work around certain things to get the car to perform like I wanted it to. I had a friend.
I have a '87 Land Cruiser, and when I leave
Canadian diesel,
when I leave from a stoplight, I'm shifting to third gear by the time I go to the opposite side of the intersection. So, I love that. That's pretty cool.
I mean, that's the stuff that I'm like.
I mean, flaws definitely. I just when you asked your question, what popped in my head is we did that thing with Rivian when we drove cross country off road on the Transamerica Trail, and our support vehicle we had was the opposite. We had the Ram TRX, no miles a gallon, big giant monster truck. But the way, and I remember I was talking to a Rivian engineer, like the way it went around a corner. Forget about the 700 horsepower. It would corner like a Baja truck, like a trophy truck. And it was so level, even loaded down with everything. And I remember I said, I was talking to a Rivian engineer. He's like, how do you like the R1T, whatever it's called, RT1 or R1T? I go, it's so good, it's so good, so good. But like, man, did you? And he's like, yeah, we hired the guy from Ram who set that up. He's like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, there you go.
Feel.
That's good. Yeah, that they're paying attention to that.
Right. Yeah. Because I found with EVs, like a lot of people like, it doesn't make the sound. I don't. I like the way cars sound, like good engine. I don't miss it when I'm driving a really great EV. I thought I would, and I really don't. Yeah,
that's interesting to hear.
I had this just crazy experience. I was in Germany with a BMW iX. So it's an electric SUV, and top speed's like, I don't know, it's pretty low, it's like 125. But you can set the cruise at 125 because it's German, and I'm on the Autobahn, and like 125, and it's super aerodynamic, so there's no wind noise, and it's like silent. It's like an airplane, but like on the ground. And I'm like, this is kind of better than like an engine at 7,000 RPM droning. You know what I mean? Like it kind of is better.
Right. True.
So,
true.
But
I guess what the application is, right?
But I wouldn't have
cruising and Nobody wants to just hear like wind noise and a high rev engine just static at that level.
Yeah.
Cruising on 125 on the freeway.
I just never would have thought of it,
But if you're driving through like PCH through that tunnel that takes you onto the 10, I took my GT3 through there, and that thing revs 9,000, and you're just it just sounds glorious.
Right.
I know
that. I prefer. I miss.
Of course.
Right, but like I had this conversation with Jonah, and he was like, this was when Tesla started.
This is
like
everyone listening. Jonah Nolan is
right.
One of the creative guys. Mine's creator of Westworld.
Right.
And he wrote Batmans and all that stuff.
Yeah, and we were talking about the inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. The EVs and the Teslas, and he's like, I said, "What's your car?" He's like, "It's tough to not go Tesla now." And I'm like, "What do you miss? Like, what don't you miss?" And he's like, "That thing will leave a AMG, blah blah, V8, V12, whatever, just standing still, and it will be effortless, and it will be silent."
Now, we need to mention two things. We're getting the high sign that the episode is officially over. However, Jonah is best friends with Elon Musk, so he's
that's right. That's true. Yeah,
he secretly tells me all the gas cars he really wants that he can't buy because of Elon. But Mr. James Marsden,
I don't want to wrap up.
I know. I think we got to because there's someone else coming in at 3.
Well, I appreciate the questions, and that was really nice of you to say all those things about Westworld and really thoughtful. And I hope that the future, that what comes with it is some attention to, the real enthusiasts out there that want to, maintain some of that connection with the car. But the EV future, 100% for it. Absolutely.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. We do. There's many things we still want to talk to you about.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
You've been awesome, so we'd love to have you back on. It's been great chatting with you, and good luck with the racing career for you and your son. And
Ed needs photos of you for his wife. So
video actually. So,
we can help you out with that.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.